Hello, hello. Welcome to another session of Tabnine Office Hours. I'm one of your hosts, Chris Good, Director of Product Marketing here at Tab9, and as always, joined by Amaya. I'll let him introduce himself.
Hey everybody, welcome. My name is Maya Deshmukh, Head of Marketing at Tabnine. So glad to have you with us today. And today, Office Hours is all about trust, specifically trust in AI agents, really how we think about them and the way that we really approach the entire space differently than a lot of the other alternatives you'll see out there. We just came back from NVIDIA GTC actually. And I think some of the most common questions we got were, from folks using tools like, Copilot or Cursor or Windsurf, for example. And really, what was interesting to see is we must have had about 300 or 500 conversations at the booth over the span of 5 days, which you expect working the booth for 8 hours a day back to back every day. But one of the trends we really saw was that developers that were really on smaller teams or folks that were just kind of building a startup from scratch. Maybe they just had 3 devs on the team and they were just starting to build the product and trying to get an MVP as fast as possible. They really liked those tools, right? They liked how fast they were. They liked how hands off it was. They enjoyed the vibe coding aspect of it. But as soon as we started talking to folks from enterprise companies, they started to share some of the problems they were encountering with the tools, which we'll share with you today. And naturally, this is a interactive live stream here, so feel free to introduce yourself in the comments, ask questions at any time throughout. And I'm going to blow through about 10 to 15 minutes of slides here, take you through why trustworthy AI agents are really the future of software development. And then we'll hop right into a demo from there where Chris will show you pretty much everything I'm going to talk your ear off about Tabnine's AI platform. So let's go ahead and get started. So AI code assistants have evolved. It's clear, but have they all evolved for the better? That is less clear. Now, Gartner forecasts that by 2028, about 78% of enterprise engineers will use AI code assistants. So hey, this is something you're all thinking about right now. It's something you're looking at. And broadly, they should be, right? Even when you just look at raw LLMs, for example, you have shadow AI occurring at many of your companies today, and perhaps you haven't approved any tools for use internally, and perhaps your engineers have GPT open on their machines anyways. They're copy and pasting things into the GPT chat. Now that by itself will increase their productivity on some level, but really what we've seen, looking broadly at the space, AI code assistants in general will produce a 30 to 50% lift in your efficiency as a software engineering team. Now, what's kind of curious to see is not all efficiency lifts are created equal, because some tools might help you get the job done faster, which is great for blowing through tickets. But at the same time, they're going to create a massive amount of technical debt. And if you've ever worked at an enterprise engineering team, you know a lot of your time is spent on maintenance. So really the question is, are you increasing the maintenance burden tomorrow by chasing full autonomy with agents today? And that's a decision you're going to have to make yourself and consider. But hey, this category has evolved rapidly. We've gone from code completions in 2018 to AI chat in 2020 to the Tab9 platform in particular. We introduced switchable models. We were the first to do that. We were the first to do on-prem deployments. We were the first to deliver human-in-the-loop, contextually aware AI agents for every step of the SDLC as well. And that's all wrapped up in a nice platform that makes it easy to govern and manage. But now we're really entering a new era. We've moved from code completions. We've moved through AI code assistants, if you will, which were defined by code completions plus AI chat in the IDE. And now we're firmly entering the agentic era of software development, where you're going to be looking at using agents to discover code. You're going to have delegation of your tasks to agents. And ideally, you're going to want them to deliver you a result. But I think a clear line in the sand to draw here is who should be directing all of this? Do you really trust an agent that's fully autonomous, that isn't keeping you informed, isn't keeping you in the loop with going through that entire loop without taking input from you as much as you would like, without keeping you informed? That's another decision you're going to make. You're going to have to make on your own. But as we're evolving into this agentic era, um, there's some shiny new tools out there that have emerged over the last 6 to 12 months. And Copilot Agent Mode, for example, or Cursor or Windsurf. And what they all promise is powerful automation. But what we're starting to see, especially if you go read my article I just published about this on my website, tabnine.com, developers are actually starting to see the downside to some of these tools. So what began as helpful autocomplete, turning into autonomous agents, and some of those agents are doing things like changing hundreds of files at once. They're suggesting shell commands. And the real issue also is that they're operating with limited transparency. So we're going to unpack all these core issues for you today, and I'll show you how Tabnine's approach offers a better path forward. So one of the first things that's probably top of mind for everyone is a lot of these agentic tools can compromise code security. There have been multiple instances of this. It's very well documented. They can leak secrets. They can suggest unsafe code. Go look on Twitter and Reddit. If you don't want to read academic papers about it, you'll find a wealth of examples of developers talking about this. Now, you go and look at some of the academic studies. Copilot's code output has been found to have vulnerabilities in about 40% of snippets. There's a great example of Cursor where it introduced a particular CWE, and then when it was told to mitigate it, it actually made it even worse. And then when it was explicitly provided with a rule to not do that particular thing, it still did it anyways. And really the crux of this issue is that you can't have autonomy without trust, and you can't have trust unless the agents and AI are aware of your specific policies and standards for code quality, maintenance, architecture, and security. So you get that with Tabnine, of course. Our agents are trained on your standards, and they validate the changes against them, and that keeps your code base secure by design. Now, the other problem folks are telling us about is around code quality and hallucinations. Now, it's very natural to think that as LLMs improve, which they will continue to do so, as their model size gets bigger, as you get into things like reasoning models or even mixture of experts approaches, that the hallucination problem will be nipped in the bud. However, that's largely not the case. Great study from University of Singapore in December of last year proposed a theorem, if you will, for LLMs. 4 components of that theorem. All computable LLMs will hallucinate. They will hallucinate on an infinite number of tasks, and that actually fine-tuning, increasing model size, and using mixture of experts are not the right approaches to prevent hallucination, which is typically how you'll get some of those errors I'm going to tell you about. But actually, the 2 factors that do improve performance significantly and are empirically proven to do so is context enhancement in real time, as well as guardrails and fences, which has all been built into the enterprise context engine that's part of the Tabnine AI software development platform. You got your control layer, you got your insights layer that takes care of that. Now, as a result of that, our context engine is actually able to deliver a 80% lift in code acceptance rates versus raw LLM performance out the box. And it's always going to be able to do that because no matter how much data an LLM has, no matter how much synthetic data they even create and train it on, it's never going to know your code base, your code, and your way of doing things. And you certainly don't want it to know that on a broad level, right? Because that's your proprietary data, that's your IP, that's your competitive advantage. And if the LLM's training data knows it, then so does everyone else. And that's really one of the key benefits of Tabnine is the privacy. Deploy the whole thing on-prem, use any LLM you like. Of course, you can do VPC or SaaS as well, in which case your data is still completely private and protected. Contextualize the LLM on your rules, your standards, and your code. Output of that is AI-generated code that actually fits your applications and approach, and you don't get technical debt, and you don't get code riddled with security vulnerabilities. You don't get code that's riddled with IP liability issues as well, because we protect you from that also, regardless of what LLM you're using. So really, it's really important to think about how you're contextualizing these tools and the level of context awareness that they have. So for example, Copilot's agent mode, that's only aware of your local IDE workspace context, whereas Tab9's human in the loop SDLC AI agents are aware of everything that you've connected into the context engine, of course. Now, the other issue that folks shared with me was unpredictable pricing. So token-based pricing. It's an interesting pricing model. What are we doing here? Are we doing enterprise software development, enterprise purchases, or are we at Chuck E. Cheese throwing quarters into a arcade machine when we're using these tools? You decide what experience you'd like there as well yourself. But Cursor and Windsurf both charge per request or token. That's really going to force your team to either ration usage, or pay variable fees, which might be fine if you've got like 10 developers. But if you're buying something for 20,000 developers, you certainly don't want the individual developer to suddenly be able to burn through 1,000+ tokens. And the real difference here is Tabnine is a flat rate price, $39 per user per month. If you do our SaaS or VPC deployment using our endpoints, of course, for models, you get all the models. We do not charge you for model consumption, and we do not limit your usage of the models. And how do we do that, you ask? Well, it turns out if you actually get the human in the loop concept plus the context right, plus the workflow and user experience right, you don't need to make as many calls to the LLM. And also, the way our context engine works, it's not about dumping massive amounts of context into the LLM's context window. Let's say the context window continues to grow. We think it will. Doesn't matter, because even if it continues to grow infinitely, putting an infinite amount of context in the window doesn't actually produce a better result. So really, our approach puts the right context from the right source at the right time for the right task at hand over to the LLM. And it does all of that in pre-processing. So your queries don't go straight to the LLM as is. They're going to hit our context system first. Now, but really the issue here is this is not scalable if you're charged on a consumption basis. Now, the other issue that people are running into are agent overreach. So there's been cases of things happening like agents refactoring multiple lines without approval. There's this concept I've started talking about called a license to refactor. That license to refactor should really only be given to your developers. You don't want an agent going and refactoring hundreds of different edits across all your files in one go. There's some great stories about Cursor's apply button changing unrelated parts of the code when they apply it. You'll see ours is more precise there. A lot of these tools don't have an undo option. And really how Tabnine is going to solve that for you is you use our agents, you're going to be able to apply them. Same thing as Cursor, but you're going to apply file by file, and it is going to show you a diff each time, and you're going to have to approve it twice before it goes in. Now, is that going to slow you down a bit more? Yes, it is, and it should, because your developers should be reviewing and understanding what the AI is doing before accepting it. Remember, when you're coding in enterprise environments, you're not vibe coding. Vibe coding doesn't work at scale. I highly discourage it, but of course, you're welcome to try and tell me how it goes for you. Now, the fifth problem is that developers can't trust what they can't see or understand. So a lot of these agent tools are going to make changes without providing you with any explanations. They're not going to give you any traceability. There's no action history. There's no rationale. Now, when a developer goes and changes something, we can trust that as people because we trust their human judgment and expertise. An AI agent needs to prove that it can be trusted by you. And the only way it can prove that is that if it walks you through its judgment, and as well as it walks you through, hey, this is exactly what I looked at in your code base, your context sources, and that's what I used to guide my answers so you can be confident it isn't hallucinating, which Chris will show you, for example, when you use Tab9, it'll pull in reference sources from your code base. You'll be able to actually click on those and just see, oh, okay, that's where it got it from. And really, we find that helps increase trust. You'll also see that Tab9 will explain what the code does and why it's doing it that way. And if you have something like a Jira ticket you're operating out of, Jira to Code Agent, for example, it's one of our agents, it'll even tell you, hey, I hit these acceptance criteria from the Jira ticket. I didn't hit these, so you need to continue to work on this with me to complete them. And then here's some ideas I had that you might want to consider to even improve this further. But really it's keeping the developer as the director of the entire process, and that's important.
Yeah,
You wouldn't hire an engineer who made changes without explaining them. So why would you tolerate it from an agent?
one quick point I just want to piggyback on that last slide is to your point, it's full autonomy and access with no transparency, right? And I think that's we're straying away from what makes a truly a useful tool. And I think that's the hallmark of what Tabnine is it enhances your capabilities without undermining your autonomy.
Yeah, well said.
Oh.
Actually, I see a question here from a LinkedIn user. Thank you for your question. Yes, so Tab9 Basic, that was our free forever tier of Tab9. It was extremely limited in its capabilities. I believe it just had code completions and a very, very rate limited chat. It is going away. We are phasing it out. It'll go away on April 2nd. And if you want to use Tab9, there'll be two ways to do it in the future. You're going to either go and get a Tab9 Dev subscription, where you're going to get access to more of our agents and more of our context. It's going to be a single seat. It's going to be $9 per user per month. And if you are an existing Tab9 basic user, you're actually going to get a pretty sweet discount offer for an annual subscription to that. And naturally, like any other dev tool, you'll of course always have a 30-day free trial on Tab9 Dev. So that'd be my recommendation to you. Now, if you actually want something that's enterprise grade, we have our Tab9 Enterprise solution, and that starts at 10 users on an annual contract with our SaaS offering, $39 per user per month. You get all the models, all of our enterprise capabilities, and literally everything we're building in the enterprise solution for all of our agentic enhancements, which we're continuing to work on, are going to be pretty exciting. And of course, those will all be in your native IDEs. So we're not building our own custom IDE, and we're not going to ask you to switch. Good luck getting enterprise developers to all switch to a custom IDE. But if that excites you, again, there are other options out there, and I encourage you to explore them. And we'll be here when you're ready for us. Now, a technical debt tsunami is emerging. It's a really interesting article from Forrester. They're forecasting that a massive amount of technical debt will reach critical levels by 2026, largely accelerated through the adoption of what I call black box AI agents. Now, this has also been corroborated. We're seeing some early signals. We're seeing the water by the coast start to move out, if you will, if you're familiar with how tsunamis have warning indicators to them. And one of those was the Google DORA report from October 2024. So it's forecasting that for every 25% increase in AI adoption, there's going to be a 7.2% decrease correlated with that in delivery throughput and delivery stability. 7.2% in delivery stability going down, and then a 1.2% decrease in delivery throughput. So it's actually starting to slow down development, and it is actually making it less stable when you actually push it into production, which is definitely not what you want when you're adopting an AI tool. You're not going to get that with Tab9. Now, how this happens with the black box agents is, hey, it's as these bullets say. You go too fast now, you're going to pay for it in the future. And if the AI isn't context aware enough, you're going to see at a basic level things like duplication of existing microservices, which the Get Clear report from 2025 is also showing has hit record levels. I believe 10x increase in duplicate code and commits as compared to 2021, which is what they're using as the benchmark for the pre-AI world. That's not good. But of course, if you're using Tab9, it's going to be aware of your code base. And if you query for something, it's going to know, oh, you've got a microservice there already that can help with that. So let me just call that instead of building something from scratch. That's what you want, right? Precision beats speed. Now, any AI agent can generate code, but ours earn your developer's trust. And this is how they do that. So all of our agents are built with human-in-the-loop design principles. That means your developers and you as a developer have to review every suggestion before you accept it. And you should be reviewing that. Now, the entire platform is secure, compliant, and private by design. And that's why we're used by aerospace and defense companies like Safran, for example. We're We're used by healthcare companies and highly regulated industries like GE Healthcare. We're used by AstraZeneca, and we're also used by Tesco, one of the large supermarket chains out of Europe, which you might be surprised to learn that a supermarket chain is highly concerned about privacy, but that's because their dev lead is very, very well informed about AI and LLMs in this space. Now, important to know also that Tabnine is fully contextual, understands your code base, your repos, your docs, knows your rules and standards for code quality, and it's integrated. So it works with your tools, not against them. It means it's available in all your popular IDEs. It supports connection into any Git-based repo, not just GitHub. You got Bitbucket, GitLab, and any Git-based repository, and amount of those that you want to connect, you can connect into the platform. Of course, we recommend connecting repositories with good code in them because you don't want it to contextualize and propagate bad code. But you can connect as many as you want. Now, we're not chasing hype. We're not trying to be the next new cool vibe coding tool out there that gets everyone excited. We're building trustworthy AI agents for professional teams. So we're really focused on eliminating hallucinations, not doing runaway edits, and also not locking you in to any specific vendor. It's just intelligent AI agents that fit how your developers already work. And our real mission here is to give you AI agents that feel like a part of your team, not a risk that you have to manage. And now, of course, that's all bundled up inside an AI software development platform that's built for mature enterprise engineering teams. We're not just tooting our own horn here. We've been top ranked by Gartner in their AI Code Assistant Critical Capabilities report. We got a number 1 on 3 out of 5 of the categories, and number 2, a close number 2, mind you, on 2 out of 5 of the remaining. And they compared us to all 12 leading providers in the space. That includes GitHub Copilot, that includes Codium, that includes Google Gemini, Amazon Q Developer. We've been validated multiple times by multiple analysts. And I'm sure you'll find if you do a enterprise proof of value trial with us that you'll be quite happy with the performance of our solution. Now, important about the platform, the whole thing can be deployed on-prem. You can air gap it if you like as well. We can also support VPC cloud deployments. It is LLM agnostic. We offer out the box all of the major popular LLMs available on the market today. Of course, you can also use your own private API endpoints for these LLMs if you like. And if you're deploying on-prem, you can also, naturally use a open source LLM like a Quen or a Llama. And hey, let's say you're pretty advanced in your usage of AI and your knowledge of LLMs on your team and your company. Perhaps you have some sort of internal fine-tuning initiative where maybe you're fine-tuning a Llama on some sort of highly specific engineering language, say like Verilog, VHDL, or something of that nature that's poorly documented in openly available data. And you fine-tune a model on it, and you're happy with that model's performance, and you want to plug it into something and give it to your developers. Hey, plug it into our platform, layer our AI agents, our integrations, and our context engine on top of it. Now you've building off the back of your own innovation and fine-tuning an LLM by making it actually usable. So you're taking innovation to business impact very, very quickly. And that's certainly something we can help you with deploying your fine-tuned LLMs that you've created yourself. Now, final thought here before we get on into the demo. You can deploy the platform anywhere you like. And we also have a partnership with Dell. So if you're a Dell customer, you have AI Factory installed already, or perhaps you're not a Dell customer and you want some help sourcing and setting up your infrastructure, well, Tabnine's already been technically validated, and you can get that through the Dell AI Factory. You've got your Dell PowerEdge servers, you've got your NVIDIA GPUs, whole solutions quantized for them, of course, so super low latency performance, and it supports thousands of devs using it concurrently. So this is a great way to adopt and scale your usage of AI in a very secure, controlled, and on-prem fashion.
And might I add, this isn't theoretical. We're already here. This is a turnkey solution that's already in the market.
Yeah, and if you're a GTC and you stop by the Dell booth, you actually saw the platform deployed on exactly that stack being showcased live at the booth. And having gone there and taken a look at that myself, I wish we had a booth with an on-prem infrastructure because it was way faster than the conference Wi-Fi that we were using to demo Tabnine. I think at one point, Chris and I were using our own phones, mobile data to do it. It still worked really damn well, but man, it was lightning fast with the on-prem deployment, largely due to the, hey, Wi-Fi is Wi-Fi, and they've got, I don't know, 6,000 or more people using it at the same time. It's gonna lag a bit. Now, future of software development, is it autonomous? Are you thinking about replacing your engineers? Do you even want that? If the answer is no, then it's augmented, and that's what we think it is. AI needs to be a tool that augments and accelerates your engineers. It needs to be effective and helpful for your senior engineers to propagate their knowledge across the organization. It needs to be effective and helpful to your junior engineers. They're actually learning how to code and learning about your code base, not just vibe coding and leaving the mess for your senior engineers to clean up later. Just in any case. So with Tabnine, you're going to get AI that respects your standards. You're going to get code that your team can maintain, but reduces the maintenance burden on them long term instead of increasing it. You get agents that are going to work to earn your trust, not to flash and get your attention. So let's go ahead and transition off of this, and let's take a look at what you can do with Tabnine. Crystal's going to walk you through a great end-to-end demo of the platform here.
So there are a couple questions from our friend Armando. It's great to see you again. Thinking we are talking about the future of software development, so might as well let's tackle these ones because they seem to be on that same theme.
Yeah. How do you envision the evolution of AI agents as real extensions of engineering teams? Awesome question. So you think about the SDLC stages, we've got human in the loop agents for every stage already. Now, from there, the next thing you're going to want to think about is looping the agents to other agents to complete and cycle through multiple stages at once. And that'll really be how you progress them. Now, you also can think about the range of software engineering tasks that exist. So we're going to do two things at the same time. It'll have more and more coverage across more tasks, and that will have deeper and deeper coverage into complexity of the tasks. So that's really what you'll see, but it's all going to build off that principle of human in the loop. So the developer is the director of it. The developer is always informed. The developer is always checking to make sure that the agent is doing the right thing, and the agent itself is checking in with the developer for the next step to check in and make sure, hey, did I do the right thing? Can we move on to the next thing? Okay, we can. Good. That's what you want. Now, is there a future where these agents integrate more deeply with version control and DevOps tools, acting as traceable co-authors directly within code repositories? Yeah, so kind of the first step towards that's going to be creating an auditable and exportable log of code that's been generated by AI, right? So you can flag it and identify it and share it. But from there, look, the Tabnine platform already integrates with the largest variety of dev tools out there on the market today. We're going to continue to push on that. So you'll see more and more integrations come in over time, and that'll be more and more extensions of the agent's capabilities. Do you think, yes. Do you believe that enterprise engineering teams will eventually demand explainability and observability as requirements for AI adoption in the same way that we demand version control, code review, and CI/CD today? Yes, they will, and yes, they already are. And that's one of the key reasons why they're going with us, because that's something we're really focused on. And more to come on all that soon. For companies with internal fine-tuning pipelines or domain-specific models, Llama variants, how seamless is the integration of custom endpoints into Tabnine's ecosystem? So into Tabnine's ecosystem, it's not going to enter our ecosystem per se, because it'll be private to your on-prem deployment of Tabnine. So it'll just be available to your engineers, and we won't ever really see the model or have access to it, the one that you've created, which is what you want, because it's been fine-tuned on your own internal data that you don't want out there. Now, in terms of how seamless it is, it's a conversation, right? So we just have to understand what your level of performance is, what you're trying to get to, and from there, you deploy it on-prem and plug it in, and you're good to go, right? So it's a conversation. I think the question that is outstanding on stuff like that is, did you actually fine-tune it properly? What are the evals you ran? What is the level of performance that you've understood about the model? And did you do all the data labeling correctly? And did you choose the right approach to fine tuning? Did you do low rank adaptation? Did you do full fine tuning? If you did full fine tuning, did you make sure you didn't have catastrophic forgetting in the model? And also, you want to be intelligent about how you roll out a fine tuned model into who, right? So you probably want to only give it to the folks that are actually going to be writing that code. So you're going to want to govern the usage of that model because it's going to be really specialized for that. So, it's just a conversation that we can have with our customers, and that's how it works. But in terms of integrating it, it's not a heavy lift at all.
Now, I think both of us do have thoughts on, is the fine tune worth the squeeze? I think that's maybe a conversation for another day, but very small use cases, in my opinion, where I feel like fine tuning should be done.
There's really only one.
Yeah,
right?
there's only
There's
one that I
one
can
use
think
case
of.
that we think you should do it for, and that's you have millions and millions of lines of extremely high quality code in a very specific engineering language that no one else can access and that isn't known enough or exposable enough for anyone else to use synthetic data to train on, and you certainly can't expose it externally. That's a great case for fine tuning, and all you're going to get out of it is a model with a data set that has more coverage on that language, more syntax, more examples, more understanding about it, right? You're still going to need to plug it into an agent and context engine for it to actually be effective for usage. Now, that's really the only case where I recommend fine tuning. If you're fine tuning, expecting the model to realize and understand your code base as a result of it, that's a mistake. If you're, there's some other vendors out there that are pushing fine tuning pretty hard. I'll be interested to see how that plays out. But I highly discourage it unless you have that very specific use case. It is not worth it at all.
Save your money, spend it on a good RAG context engine.
Yeah, that's what you could do. So question, how does Dev compare to what used to be Pro? So Dev has more functionality than Pro, actually. It's a better solution. The 2 points of difference on it are it is $9 a month instead of 12, and it is a single user seat only. You cannot have multi users. You can't have teams on Dev. Excuse me. So that's how it compares to what used to be Pro. All right, let's go ahead and move on over to the demo. I'm gonna hop off stage here and let you take the reins.
Sweet. All right. You remove this. Awesome. Okie dokie. Let's get on with the demo. So we're going to start with a little overview of Tabnine, talk about the form factors, what you're seeing. We have a lot of new updates to our UI, and then we'll walk through the phases of the SDLC from creating to reviewing and maintaining. You'll notice I'll be jumping in between projects here, so you'll see some Java, some React, maybe some TypeScript, but sure it'll all make sense. So let's start here at the top. We're going to go over the AI chat. So in this case, I'm in VS Code. You'll see our icon here on the side when Tabnine is installed. But as Amaya said earlier, we are pretty much IDE agnostic, right? We support all of the major IDEs. So Visual Studio 22, the entire JetBrains family, Eclipse, NeoVim, VS Code, of course. Use us where you're comfortable. So when you do have us installed, you're going to see the Tabnine logo here on the left-hand side. Clicking that's going to open up Tabnine AI Chat. Now, starting at the top here, you're going to see our switchable models dropdown. Now, these are the models that my administrator, me, has provisioned to my team. At this point, I'm going to be using Claude 3.5, but you have the flexibility to choose whichever model best fits what you're trying to do, right? Different ones might have better use cases than other we found. For the sake of this demo, I'm going to be using 3.5, but again, your administrator controls all of this, which is available to you. Now, below that, you're going to see natural language query prompt bar, right? Use your everyday natural language, conversational language to type in prompts and queries, and you'll get suggestions and answers here within chat. Now, below that is something new and exciting and quite powerful. It's our context scoping, right? So what we're able to do now is fine tune our scope on a conversation by conversation basis, or even a question by question or prompt by prompt basis, right? So I can instruct Tabnine to consider my current file, workspace, code base. I can even say terminal. Heck, I can even go in and get very specific and granular, specifying remote repositories, folders within those repositories, even files within those folders that are within those repositories. So you're not having to go in and explicitly look on GitHub or try and find a needle in a haystack per se if you have a huge project. Now, below that, you're going to see the ability to use @mentions. @mentions can reference code snippets. They can reference actual files as well. Just again, helping you add a little more context and be more specific within these queries, right, within AI chat. Now, next to that, you're going to see our this / command, right? Now, this is going to be a drop down that's going to open up all of your quick commands. Quick commands where you might, if you're a longtime Tabnine user, you'd recognize our explain, generate tests, document code, fix code, and code explore agents, right? They now have a new home that's within this drop down, either by doing a / on your keyboard or by clicking this button here. Now you're also going to see a handful of ones that you do not have, and those are going to be ones that I've created. We now offer the ability to create custom commands in Tabnine. I'll show you how to do that later, but it's giving you the ability to take out the heavy lifting of prompt engineering by creating these sort of mini agents or workflows that you find yourself doing on a day-to-day basis. So to the right of that, you're going to see our images context. Now, this allows us to use non-code sources as context within our engine, right? So in this case, we can upload images, think ER diagrams, and turn those into Postgres schema. You can go, let's say, bug hunting. Your marketing team circles something on your app or your website and says, hey, this is broken. You can upload that screenshot into Tabnine as context, and it will find that exact block of code and help you fix it. It's very, very powerful. You can also wireframe and do UI and UX mockups and generate UI designs based off of Canva or Figma files. Now, the last piece here is our Jira agent, right? So clicking this button populates this drop down that's going to show your assigned Jira tickets. And I'll talk more about that here when we get into the create stage. Also worth mentioning, this is unique to Tabnine, right? So being able to take this non-code sources context, in this case, a Jira ticket, implement and validate those tickets. Now, to the right of chat, you're going to see our switchable models drop, or geez, not our switchable models drop down, our testing agent. Our testing agent is going to allow you to generate comprehensive test plans for your code, right? So you can start from scratch. You can also upload or use current test plans, and we'll walk through what that flow looks like later on, so no worries. Now, the last section here within AI chat is going to be our settings section. Historically, maybe not something exciting or flashy in a product. For Tabnine, this is arguably my favorite spot and where I think a lot of really cool magic happens. For starters, this is where you integrate Jira. You can also determine your response length, right? So you might use something more comprehensive if you're new to a project or onboarding. And you might use something concise when you just want straight to the point responses and code snippets. Now, below that, you're going to see custom behaviors. And this is a way that you can fundamentally change how Tabnine is going to respond and act out of the box. So what I can do here In this case, I have a handful of principles or behaviors that I want it to follow, right? Add logging entry and exit statements, add logging when appropriate, follow test-driven development, you know, and before answering, think about each of these guidelines. Ensure I follow each of these. So you'll see here within my responses, it's going to act slightly differently, but you can also localize Tabnine through this custom behavior, right? To answer in German or respond in Chinese. And it can do English and non-English characters as well. Very, very powerful. Defining custom commands. This is where you create those commands I told you about earlier, right? So the idea for, let's say, to create documentation based on a markdown file you currently have that outlines how your team should operate and create docs. And we'll show that in use later on. Now, the last piece here would be to toggle chat completions, right? So as you're typing, you'll notice tab 9 within chat's going to recognize my intent. So that's AI chat here. Let's jump inside the IDE or inside the project, and I'll show you the different form factors here that you'll find tab 9. So let's jump up to where we list our rules. Okay, so tab 9, auto completions, where it all started, right? When we are typing within tab 9, you're going to see here within our IDE, this gray line, right? This is our auto completions. It's going to recognize your intent, right? And it's going to generate contextually relevant. Let's see, why did that just go away? System. Okay, perfect. So it's going to generate contextually relevant suggestions. In this case, it recognizes I am writing more useful info for this application. 17 rules. God bless the folks that have to follow them. But it's going to recognize that, and it's going to auto suggest another rule here that makes sense that I haven't already thought of, right? If you're doing tests, it's going to generate tests or help you auto complete tests, documentation, so on and so forth. Generating new code, it's just going to recognize that intent and help and provide useful suggestions, right? Now, you'll notice at the top of each block of code, you're going to see these 4 buttons and sometimes a 5th. Let's see, fix. Okay, so if something is wrong here, you'll see the fix button, but this is our code lens, right? So you have edit, test, fix, explain, and document. Just a way to quickly access those same agents that we saw within our chat and our dropdown, but without having to go in a chat, right? It's slightly more in that developer flow, slightly more where you're working, right? Requiring less effort. Now, the last piece here we'll talk about before we get into the SDLC is our quick commands dropdown. So hitting Command I on a Mac will open up this dropdown. I know that might be an issue for some JetBrains users, but do not worry, you can remap those key bindings. Doing this will populate the dropdown. The dropdown at the top, for starters, gives you the ability to just use everyday natural language like you're used to down here. It's also going to provide access to our quick commands, right? Our agents. So you'll find fix, document, explain, and explore. You can determine the specific lines of your scope. You can also reference code snippets. And then lastly, you can determine which model you're using within this for this action, right? Again, we're staying with Claude 3.5 Sonnet for this demo. So let's start chipping away here. What we will do is let's move to this, fraud detection dashboard. And we're going to start, let's say, saying we don't know what the project is, right? I'm assuming it's a fraud detection dashboard by the name, but let's confirm that. So step 1, we're planning, right? For this phase, it's very helpful as a developer to understand truly what my project is outside of just the file name, right? What the application does, so on and so forth. So we're going to use our Code Explorer. Now, the Code Explorer is project-wide onboarding, right? It's going to go through the entire project. It's going to tell me the key components, the structure, how to get started, how to contribute. And then what's also neat is it's going to provide this follow-up, right? So it's going to say, okay, here's some areas where you can dive deeper and learn a little bit more. Some of these might be something that is pertaining to the work that I'm doing, right? So what are the main technologies or tools used in this project? Okay, this is going to help me dive deeper. I'm going to learn more about this project now. We understand it's Next.js. There's built-in routing. Okay, there's React. What's the purpose? I have a Prisma database. Awesome. I'm using Tailwind CSS. Great, right? And now I have a full understanding in 60 seconds of exactly what this project does, how it operates, and all the key components. Now, let's say I understand what I'm looking at now, but I'm a little bit curious. I don't understand what, let's say, this block of code does. That's a great use for explain, right? Think explore, project-wide, explain, maximum a file, but best used on code blocks or code snippets, right? So it's going to look at the selected code, and now it's going to give me a explanation of this transaction table. Awesome. Okay, now I have a better understanding of what I'm looking at, and specifically this block of code and how it relates to the wider application. So let's go through the next phase. Let's start creating, right? Now, earlier we talked about our Jira agent. Now, what's important here is let's look at our Jira board. This is my sample demo board here. You're going to see 60 tickets in to do, 7 and ready for dev, 2 in progress, so on and so forth. It's a lot of tickets. 16 specifically for me. Now, when I'm in tab 9, though, and I go to this Jira dropdown, I'm only going to see 4. Now, why is that? What tab 9 is doing is it's only going to show, 1, the tickets that are specific to your user that is integrated with Jira. And we support Jira Data Center as well as Jira Cloud. 2, you're only going to see the tickets that have been active within the last 30 days, right? Or have had some sort of change. Those are the ones that are going to populate here within this block, right? Or within this dropdown. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this brand redesign. Now, before we start, let's say, tell me about this ticket before we get started implementing. Should have just hit tab because tab 9 knew what I wanted to say. Certainly, Chris, let's give an overview. Awesome. This is part of a big redesign effort. Great. We've got orange and green, new colors. Must be a Florida-based company. Awesome. What are we referencing? Okay, cool. Now it's also knowing how I like to style, and when it implements these changes in this redesign, you're going to notice here it's pulling in the style CSS from these remote external repositories, right? This microservice demo I've previously created. And clicking on this is going to take me over to specifically where this code is within the repo, right? And worth mentioning, massive repository here, right? So throughout all of this, without specifying, it's using this as a reference and helping me build that new style that's following what I currently have in my code base, right? What my organization's current patterns and guidelines and standards are. Very powerful, and didn't even have to specifically or explicitly call this out or reference this, right? So great. Okay, we know it's pulling this in. Let's go back over here Here's the considerations, implications. Awesome. All right. So I have an idea of what this is now. I know what the ticket is. I didn't have to go check Jira. I've stayed in my ID the entire time. Let's implement it. And that's as simple as saying implement this ticket. So what Tabnine's doing now is it's reading that non-code sources as context. It's reading the description, the acceptance criteria, and then now it's going to generate these new components, right? Now, all we do here is we click apply. Tab9 is going to apply that code exactly where it should be, regardless of my cursor location, regardless of open file. Awesome. We're good to go there. Let's update the top bar as well. Great. Now, cross our fingers. This doesn't look absolutely horrible. Oof. Well, I've designed worse things in my life. Now we have a redesign here, right? So we've added this orange sidebar and we've added this green top bar. Truthfully, I don't hate it. Anywho, that's great. So let's take it and let's validate that this implementation is correct beyond me just liking the way it looks. Validate this implementation. Okay, we have 1 check, 2 checks, 3 checks. Oh, awesome. Okay, let's verify, right? This is human in the loop. It can't be done by an AI code assistant. So I need to go verify it myself, right? Something worth calling out. Tab9's just not going to say it's done and say, oh yeah, you did it. Congratulations. Ship it out to production. It's requires a human in the loop verification as outlined in my ticket. So it's saying, hey, it's partially implemented, but let's go and double check that. Go through all the other pages. And also test this out across different browsers, right? It's not verified in the code, and this requires manual testing. Now, here's some additional observations and recommendations to make sure that all of this is fully compliant with what I wanted to do, right? And this is by design. I wanted some things to be very easy to complete, simple, right? Change the color, changes the color, great. Also have something that's more complex. It's human in the loop. It requires me to go and verify this. I don't want it to blindly say, oh yeah, I verified it, thumbs up. It's saying, hey, based on your ticket, you need to do a little bit more work, and then this will be given the thumbs up. So really, really powerful, really cool, and saves me a lot of time. Now, next step here is we're going to go into testing, right? So let's talk about our testing agent here. So let's go in here. Now we're going to generate a new test plan, right? Our test agent located to the right of our chat, all within the AI chat though. And it's also worth mentioning, you don't just have to test within the agent here. In this case, let's move, whoops. Over here, you can see that you can write tests from the code lens. You can also write tests from the dropdown as well. Whoops, not from the quick commands, but from just actually writing in natural language here. So let's move back over. All right, we're going to generate a test plan. Now let's select the code. So we're going to do our entire dashboard.tsx file. I do not have a test file. This isn't exactly where I want it, but that's okay. You can also customize this, right? And if you did have a test file, you just click browse. It's going to open up this drop down. You could select it from there. So dashboard.test components. Yeah, sure. Let's go there. Now, what you're going to see here is Tab9 is going to start by generating us a test plan, right? It's also then going to create a file template for us. Now, below the template, you're going to see these handful of suggested test cases. Keyword, suggested, right? These are just starting points. You can use them as is. You can also go in and fine tune and polish them to your liking. So let's start adding a few here. We'll render the sidebar component with all navigation items. That seems like a good one here. Let's click apply. It's going to insert that right where it should. Yep. Perfect. Display the correct number of transactions fetched from the DB. Also a good one. We're going to add this one here as well. Great. Now, let's do this third one, but 10,000 feels a little high, right? For this case, I want someone to get notified. Let's say 5,000, right? Flag transaction. Let's even get less specific. Change 10,000 to 5,000 transactions are flagged. You can refine that test, right? And then it's going to regenerate it with that modification in it. Then you can go and do the same flow, and we're just going to apply and insert it into our test file. Perfect. Right where I want it. Awesome. Okay. Now we have a test file, right? We've already had some test cases built out. Let's say that we want to get more test coverage, or we want more code coverage, right? Historically, that's been very hard to get. It's very hard to achieve, and something that we all want, or in my opinion, should want, right? We've now made it exponentially easier to get full coverage, right? Code or test. How do we do that? What we're going to do is we're going to start up here. We're going to generate a new test plan. Generate test plan for code. We're going to go to our dashboard page, since that's the code that we already have a test file for. We're going to say I have a test file this time. Browse dashboard.test.txs. Let's use this one. Now, what you're going to notice here is it's going to go through that same process of generating the test plan for us. We don't need a test template this time around, but look what we have here. Now, at the bottom, it shows our existing tests, right? Why does this matter? Why is this so powerful? Well, Tabnine is going to generate a new handful of tests that aren't what you currently have in your existing test cases, right? It's going to just out of the box allow you to reiterate and move closer and closer, getting you full test coverage, right? So you can feed this in 2 times, 3 times, however many times you would like, right? But ultimately, it's going to help you build out a really, really robust a really, really robust test plan in a comprehensive way that's easy and effortless, right? And will allow you to actually know what you're building and make sure you have full coverage for it. So we've created new code. We've tested that it works. Let's go back and add some documentation to it. And there's a handful of ways to do that. So let's start here. You can just do a quick command. Let's say we're going to do this. We can say generate docs from here, and we could do that, right? It's one way of doing it. It's going to generate documentation for us, submit. Cool. Now it's going to process this request. You have the ability as well within the code lens to accept or reject or refine these requests, right? Perfect. This is doing what I want it to. Awesome. Now, what I did notice is let's say this isn't exactly how my team is writing documentation or how I want to write documentation. Let's say you want to get very specific. What I've done, as I showed you guys earlier, is create a custom command that helps me generate documentation. So we're going to start a new conversation, which, by the way, is what I've been trying to do, but is best practice for when you're working with Tabnine, or let's just say any tool in general. Think of it as your brain can only handle so much at one time. When it's conversations all on the same thing, right? Let's say that Jira ticket, for example, have long ones, right? Think of it as having a conversation with someone, and over the course of an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, you're going to have more of an understanding. But when we start talking about a million different things, I might have a hard time remembering what me and this person, say Amaya, talked about 30 minutes ago when we've talked about 30 different things, right? Treat it as your brain. So we're going to go in and we're going to use our generate Java docs, or generate docs from template, excuse me. So we're going to select our code again. Let's see here. Yeah, we'll go back in the dashboard. We're going to do this block here. And we'll click this click command, right? Now I've already outlined how it's supposed to work. But now what it's going to do is it's going to read my guidelines, and it's going to provide the documentation based on how my team likes to write docs. It'll provide examples. It's going to do @ mentions as well. And then, as always, it's as simple as clicking apply, and you can see, let's check the references. Okay, it's reading the right files. Let's hit apply. Awesome. A quick review. It's going to show the diff, and I can accept that change. Sweet. So now we've documented the code and we've tested it. We're about to push it into production. But before we do that, we're going to use our coaching agent, right? Something that's new to Tabnine. Very, very, very exciting in my opinion. So let's pop over here first. This is our coaching rules, right? Our back end. What we found, let me back up a second. What we found with folks using Tabnine, right? Our customers were so darn productive. And they were producing so much good code, but that code was then running into another bottleneck, right? We found engineering managers, code review in general was becoming this bottleneck, right? How do all of these engineering managers, code reviewers keep up with the influx of PRs? How are they going to remember all of these new rules and rules in general, right? It's a fast moving space. We're constantly worrying about new things. We're enforcing new things. So then we created this coaching agent, right? And this code review agent. Now what it does is it comes preloaded in Tabnine with a, I shouldn't say few hundred, almost 2,000 rules that we've gathered and evaluated from leading voices in the software development space. A lot of which come from our partners, right? And we've then given each of our customers the opportunity to import rules as well, right? Because we know that every organization is unique. A one size fits all approach does not work for our space, especially for complex enterprise engineering teams and environments. And you can import rules by doing it a handful of ways, right? Point to Tabnine to a golden repository. Think of a golden repository, as Amaya said, similar for fine tuning. It's a repo that is your best written, best documented, all of your best practices, standards are being enforced. Tabnine can analyze and extract a rule set from that, thus then populating this coaching rules backend or interface. You can also just upload a simple CSV file with plain English descriptions like avoid excessive debug logging within a method, right? Tabnine will then provide good examples and bad examples, as well as some other metadata, all of which can be customized, right? We understand this is a living, breathing area of Tabnine. So what we've just done, though, what we've given all of our users and customers the ability to do is augment your best code reviewers, your best engineers, your best engineering managers and minds, and make their information and knowledge on demand for every developer across the entire organization who's using Tabnine, right? So starting within the PR or pre-PR within the IDE, I can type Tabnine review repository. And what it's going to do is send all of these changes or everything that's changed since my last commit out for code review, right? It's going to look at that custom rule set that we just showed on screen here, and it's going to look at my code that I want to commit, and it's going to, what's it called? Flag any deviations or violations based on the two, right? So what we'll do after this is say Tabnine review report -- last, and let me supersize this. So it seems to be a lot of this stuff was with my Prisma file. Let me jump over to a better example maybe here. You do a Tabnine review repository. Sweet. Tabnine review report -- last. Well, seemingly I don't have a lot of issues in my code, which is good. Good for me, bad for the demo, but we're still going to walk it through anyway. So what happens here is Tabnine is, again, looking through that code and flagging any violations. You're going to see the file in question, the specific line that it's in question, the violation, the to-do, a description. Okay, is this just a flag? Is this critical? Is this just a warning? And then it's going to provide that rule ID. Now, if there's something that was maybe more syntax, it's more of a syntax issue, it will also provide those like suggested revisions and fix blocks. But this is a huge win for us developers, right? Because now we're not going to send our engineering managers or code reviewers PRs that are riddled with issues, violations, right? We're going to have, we're going to be able to enforce from a leadership standpoint, you're going to be able to enforce excellence and standardization in your guidelines and best practices across your entire organization, which is very, very, very powerful. Now, on the PR side, let's say, okay, I've went through and I've reviewed all of these, and I don't want to get carried away for myself. We can also use terminal as context to say, hey, take what's been given back from code review and use that as and make these changes, right? So I can, just for the sake of this, use based on what is shown in the terminal from code review, help me fix the issues, violations. And we'll just set current file, workspace, and terminal as context. Certainly, based on the code review results, there's no direct issues with the dashboard.tsx. Yes, usually have issues there. But there's some other ones here, right? So now it's going to go through and it's going to help me track these down and help me actually implement these issues that I found within this code review process long before it goes off to my code reviewer, right, for a PR. But moving on, let's say it does go off. Here's an example of what that would look like, right? So this is an older, much older PR from way in the beginning when I was doing a demo here, but it still stands. This is still the same flow, right? We're integrated with GitHub Actions, so you're going to have a really clean visualization on these PRs, right? So you're going to see, okay, here's the code in question, the file in question. Here's the code that was being violated. Whoops. Back up there. Awesome. Here is the to-do. Here's the rule that was violated. And here's a suggested revision, right? And you'll also notice that for a lot of these, you can commit, or excuse me, you can commit. That one I wasn't able to on that one. But here you are able to see that as of late, now you can commit these suggestions as well, right? So it's going to show you the show diff of what's being changed. Again, showing you that rule, showing you it's a warning, and then you can even commit that suggestion or just raise comments back to your developer who was coding this, right? You can also look at the specific files that are being changed, and it'll show you the show diff for those as well, and where that code is being added in and what code is being added in as well. And the last piece that we're going to cover here is maintenance, right? Just something I'll share with you guys now. So you can use Tabnine, let's say, for if you didn't have a product team or you're looking for quick wins, let's say within your application, and Tabnine's context aware, it knows your project better than anyone else. You can ask Tabnine to suggest, you know, 5 ways to improve the UX and UI of this dashboard component, and add 1 for performance, because I'm just curious. Tabnine can be a great source of ways to maintain and constantly improve your projects, your code base, what have you, right? You can also use Tabnine, though, to modernize and refactor things, right? So bug fixes, like we talked about earlier, being able to use image as context and go in and find the broken code or those bugs and fix it and maintain it, right? You can refactor old PHP code into Java, or you can use, let's say, modernize really old COBOL applications, or as we've talked about a lot here earlier, let's say like a system Verilog application, right? But Tabnine can be used to refactor, can be used to modernize, it can be used to help maintain, right? So really, imagination is the only limiter there. Just up to your prompt engineering. So let's see here. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I will show. Let me see. Now we've talked about our custom behaviors, custom commands. Yeah, I'm going to pop over in the StreamYard chat here. Not sure if there's any further questions. Let's see. So Claude 3.7 is not removed per se. It is still there. It is just has to be turned on by your administrator. It is still accessible, though. It is just not the out of the box model. We still recommend 3.5 until we see enough data on 3.7 being that much better. 3.5 has historically and continued to work a lot better for us and our customers. Victor, what IDE is this? I'm using VS Code, but again, we support, again, you might not have been here for this. We do support all major IDEs, right? So Visual Studio 22, VS Code, Eclipse, NeoVim, the entire JetBrains family. We are not going to make you adopt a new IDE. We are going to meet you where you're comfortable in already coding. So any further questions, we'll leave it up for about a minute here. Happy to show anything that we didn't get a chance to see, or if there's something specific that you folks here on the call want to see, I'm happy to dive in specifically on that. For folks who are using Tabnine, though, I will say if you haven't messed around with the custom behaviors quite yet, it is incredibly powerful. There's a lot of really, really cool things you can do with it that just make the Tabnine experience on an every sort of day basis much more enjoyable, much more personalized for each and every developer. So things that you would find yourself asking for over and over again, like, provide tests, right? Follow a TDD framework. Hate it or love it. A lot of people think it's best practice. So it's just out of the box doing it for me here without me having to explicitly say, right? Or provide logging frameworks. For the sake of this demo today, I did change my name back to Chris, but you can have Tabnine call you whatever you would like. And for weeks, it was calling me Overlord. So have fun with it. Let's see here. I've seen you create agents before using custom commands. Is there time for us to show you how to do that now? Yeah, let's create one on the fly here. Let's do, you know what? I think I have one that is for my documentation on my Java file, but I don't believe it's not for React files. So let's do that. I'll show you how we can create a custom command that's going to generate code. So we'll start off by saying here, we're going to hit add. Now call our custom command a name. We're going to say generate docs React docs from template. Very probably similar. Generate React documentation from guidelines template. Cool. All right. So now we have to actually write the prompt template. So it's helpful for me. I always do numerical lists, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on and so forth. So we're going to mention that specific file. I can't think of the name of it. Is it next project guidelines? Yeah. Awesome. Let's go down here and do the same. Now, another use case of this, for example, we have some folks that we work with that they do a lot of testing, right? So they might have 1,000 tests that are outlined in a template, right? And they have a command that using the selected code, let's say step one is reference that testing file, that testing template with those 1,000 tests. Step two is using that selected code generate those tests for this component, or generate tests for this component using those 1,000 test template, right? So it's going to create a new file for them testing this new code or component they've created based on the 1,000+ tests that they use in their organization. It's pretty sophisticated and can be pretty advanced, but we'll hit save here. Awesome. Now you're going to see within my dropdown, I have a new command, generate React docs from template, and it's local, right? It's just for me. So we're going to hit generate React docs from template. Now let's select some code here. We'll go to our layout, make this smaller. Let's do this whole guy here. And generate docs from template. Now what you're going to see is it's going to analyze that markdown file, and it's going to generate documentation that follows that specific file's guidelines, standards, expectations for how documentation should be written within my organization. But there would have been so many more steps, right, without something like this, right? So use this as inspiration. Go back and think about what are the things you find yourself fine-tuning or prompt engineering, excuse me, on a daily basis. And then think about how you can create custom commands to replace that, right? To take away that laborious, monotonous process. Awesome. Well, if there are no more questions here, we can wrap it up. But as always, it was a pleasure chatting with you folks today. It's always fun getting a chance to demo and talk to everyone and see the comments and questions come in. So as always, we're going to be here next week on next Wednesday, as we do it every Wednesday, rotating between times. This week was 10:30 PT. Next week will be 7 a.m. PT. So a little bit earlier, but still a very, very interesting talk. We have some cool stuff in the works that Amaya and I are working on here. So going to be delivering some exciting new information in the next few sessions. So stay tuned. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next week. And remember, bring your toughest questions. We're readily, we're looking forward to debunking them or answering them, right? So thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you all next week. Cheers.